whatever we did the last time, which was 10 years ago.
Yeah, right. I think we just started with, hey, non-existent viewers.
Hi, non-existent viewers.
I'm Maddie.
I'm Erin.
We're still watching Supernat, though we did take a couple months off there, had some family and real life stuff come up, so we...
also, I'm a flake.
No one has watched any of these, so as far as you know, we didn't take any time off.
Yeah. As far as we know, we've been doing these back to back for days on end.
For days, just days and weeks on end. I have terrible
wine tonight. We're actually in the same house, fun fact.
What?
I said we're actually in the same house, fun fact.
We're not.
No, we're not.
We're not. We wish we were.
I know,
Soon,
right?
though, we both have, since this is 2021, we both have our vaccinations. We've cleared our 2-week thing, so we can actually interact in person. But yeah, so I have my bad wine tonight to go with the disgusting levels of gross in our episode that we'll be discussing.
Thematically appropriate. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it is Cinco de Mayo today. So I am drinking a cherry margarita that I made. And it's not really thematically appropriate, but I did make it with frozen cherries. Turns out you can make a margarita with an immersion blender if you want to. And that's the only kind of blender I have. And it does look a little gory.
Yeah, I believe that.
Super red and like pulpy.
I was gonna say probably got some skin in there.
Oh yeah.
Yum.
Skin. You did the thing.
Right. We're actually gonna shake things up a little bit today. I am going to be leading the discussion on episode 6 from season 1, Skin, because rewatching it, I was really excited to talk about it.
Which is good because I did not love it. But I definitely, in retrospect, like it better after just having rewatched Hookman. So
that's fair.
I'll be a little bit more gracious, I think, than I
would. I think I think as we go on, I find myself really enjoying a lot of these episodes more than I remember enjoying them like during first watch throughs.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably because like one of the things I'll be talking about is something that doesn't make itself very readily apparent after the first 5 episodes, but once you go back after like a few more, it's a weird episode. As far as like developing the plot goes, because this episode does not really advance a lot of plot, but there are some very interesting pieces that play out in later episodes. I think as far as I am reading it. So it'll be one of those interesting things where like towards the end of season 2 in particular.
Hey, you remember Skin when this happened?
Remember Skin when I talked about this thing? Does that make more sense now?
Nice. Will color me intrigued. I'm here for it.
Right. So this week we see Sam and Dean headed to St. Louis, Missouri. One of Sam's friends of sorts. It was like he was friends with the brother and the sister calls. Maybe he was friends with the sister. It's all very like it's a poorly written friendship.
Right.
But you get the sense. It's one of those hilarious things where you wonder, like, what is happening with Sam's friends? Did he take the semester off? Did he just like AWOL forever?
Him and the sister were clearly at least close enough for when he sees her again for him to go, oh, if it isn't little Becky, when this woman is clearly 37 years old.
Well, right. Yeah. That was
she is a grown, mature woman, sir. Like, maybe don't call her that.
Well, right. It's like I assume he is friends with the brother who is older. She comes to Stanford.
Yeah.
3 or 4 years later.
Yeah.
This little Becky, all of the stories, you know.
Yeah. His brother and sister who clearly have at least one different parent because they didn't even try to get actors who look alike. Like she's blonde, tan, and again 37, and he looks like a 22-year-old caveman. Like he was a teenage caveman, and they just said she's good enough. We'll pretend she's still in college.
That's interesting. I don't even like consider those things because to that effect, like, okay, Sam and Dean, aside from being, you know, more than averagely attractive,
right,
and like vaguely similar eye color.
Sure.
Sometimes
they're both
there's a great collage of all of the various different colors that Jared's eyes can be depending on the lighting.
Wow. I knew the Supernet fandom was insane, but damn.
Yeah.
That's intense.
They had 15 years and were rabidly obsessed, so
every single one of them.
You shouldn't be surprised that that kind of thing exists.
You know what? I'm impressed.
Yeah. So Sam claims that he keeps up with his friends. This was something that I like was crying thinking about today a little bit because it's one of those things where if a younger person starts watching this, there are some things that will make no sense. Like they won't call each other unless it's an emergency, unless it's after 5 p.m. And that's because talk and text was limited. You don't see them texting because texting was limited.
Right.
And it was just one of those funny thoughts that I had where I'm like, Sam like desperately has to use email to keep up with people because he mentions like, I got an email from someone.
Right.
And it's like, well, but why? And why are you checking it now? Like, but it's because phones were shit back then. It was $20 to access the internet for 5 minutes. You had maybe 300 texts a month and maybe like 200 minutes of talking during daylight hours.
Yeah, it was unlimited nights and weekends.
Yep, unlimited nights and weekends.
That was your moment.
Right. And I had that like realization today. I'm like, throughout the seasons, that's something that changes. You'll see them talking and texting all the time.
Also, god damn it, I'm elderly.
Hey, I remember these days too.
Yeah.
I didn't have a cell phone until college.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. But
oh, hello, Lacey.
There's Lacey. Now she wants her ball. Of course.
Just a gremlin in the background. Don't mind her.
Well, I was gonna do the blurry background thing. But
then we would miss this.
But then we'd miss this, so.
This fucking gremlin.
She got a haircut. She doesn't shed, so she needs to get groomed. For the non-existent viewers who need context.
Context for the dog.
Yeah. And so she was pretty shaggy because between the family things and a COVID closure, I wasn't able to get her in a more timely grooming manner. And so now she looks like a rat. Poor thing. Smile. Oh, yes, you know I'm talking about you.
I'm being spoken of, but not included. I don't appreciate this.
Anyway, so Becky's older brother has been arrested for murder. And the best thing that she can think of is to email Sam. That's a little flat. That's not entirely true.
Yeah.
But it's true enough, clearly.
Yeah. I wonder if this was like a group email. Like, hello everyone. If you're thinking about what we're doing during our semester off or whatever.
Right.
You know, Jimothy's been arrested for murder. Mom and dad are still on the continent.
Right. Yeah. I feel like we see a shot of it and it's addressed to him, but maybe I'm making that up.
I didn't catch that bit. Just since we're having a little turn of the millennium like nostalgia trip, I was
Yeah.
just thinking about mass like catch-up emails.
Right.
Sent to a whole
I mean,
list of family
it
and
could
friends.
have been. It was in December.
This was their Christmas card.
This was the Christmas card.
If you're going to send a gift to Jimothy, please send it care of Oklahoma City County Jail. Oh no, it was St. Louis.
Yeah, St. Louis. One of those oh god, what are the terrible like it'll like unfold cards, e-cards.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, basically it's an electronic version of any shitty card that you get in the mail around Christmas.
Yeah. The family Christmas letter.
They've fallen out of favor, and I support that decision that society made. Anyway, so they go. She claims that she was with him when the murder happened. I don't know about any of you, but I couldn't tell you anything about time frame. Nothing. Unless I was literally staring at my phone for the 5th time checking the time, because you never actually check it the first time that you're checking it.
No, it's just a reflex.
And then I would forget. And then I'd open fan fiction. Then I'd clear some notifications. And then I would look at the time. If you need an accounting of why it's the 5th time I look at the clock.
Yes. Well, also, and this is like a common complaint I have with, and not that I'm the only one, with like any kind of like police procedural television and movies, is they've got, well, there's 2 I have here. Maybe I'm getting ahead of us slightly, but part of the way that they have, what was this character's name, by the way? Because I keep calling him Jimothy because I didn't write his name down.
I feel like it was Adam, something like that.
Anyhow, Jimothy. Yeah. So the cops have him based on security camera footage from across the street, which we do see later, and ain't no fucking security camera. It is Zach. Okay. No security camera in the history of ever has been so in focus and good. With 4 views. There's 4 different angles of view. Like, what, unless, is Fort Knox across the goddamn street? Like, no, not a thing. B, the time of death thing, I'm pretty certain, now granted, again, not a forensic pathologist per se, just a, amateur in my free time, but I am fairly certain that you cannot tailor time of death down. He was hanging out with me until midnight, and the time of death was 10:30. Hour and a half in terms of forensics, that's minimal time. Like, that's not.
Yeah, I
don't think that's outside the realm of possibility, where they'd be like, oh, he was hanging, even where the cops would be like, oh, he was hanging out with her until midnight. We estimate she died at 10:30. I think that's close enough for a plausible case.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were holding him. Whatever she said was not accepted at minimum.
True.
And to that same point, she is clearly not a forensic.
No. And I guess,
whatever.
Well, I was going to say if my brother were being held for murder, but.
But we won't rule that out as an actual possibility, folks.
I might, I would certainly hope it wasn't the case, but, I don't think I'd be so quick to make excuses as Becky happens
as
to
Becky.
Be. So maybe I'm not the test case here. Let's just go.
Yeah, right. Anyway, Sam with, soft voice, big eyes, talks her into like going to see the crime scene by lying about Dean's job.
Which she has already not only lied, but stolen said
evidence, tape or whatever.
Yeah, like
girl,
you want your brother to go to jail, right?
Yeah, right. Which I had optimistic dreams of keeping track of how many times Sam and Dean were like arrested, because this is the like first time we really see both of them get arrested. I was like, oh, I would be interested in keeping count in that, and then I was like, it's not worth it. It is not worth keeping track how many times they are like taken into custody of law enforcement. Right. It's just not.
Far too many.
So anyway, it turns out after they look at the video that you see some eye flashes, which God help me if there are actually monsters and hunters, because I'm pretty sure that like my consistent red eye would get me flagged by this.
Yeah, you're spooky.
Yeah. Which, fun fact, many animals do that. Sheep eyes do that. And it's
get red
as fuck. No, the like flashy thing, the light.
Oh, goat's eyes do that. Goats have the weird square pupils.
Yeah,
I fucking love them. They're kooky as hell.
They also have like a hard rock in the center of them. We had to dissect goat eyeballs.
Oh, fun.
In my high school bio class.
I think we got a cow's eye. I think that's what we I remember dissecting an eyeball. I think it was a cow's.
Unpleasant.
Yeah. I don't remember hating the dissection, if I'm being honest, but we also never did anything that was more like emotional than a frog. And the frog, I was like, okay, sorry, bud. We never had to do like, I didn't go into higher sciences, so I didn't have to do like, the fetal pig or any of that shit.
Oh, I did have to do that.
Oof.
It is okay. If you are squeamish, don't listen to this next like 30 seconds. We'll do like jazz hands when it's safe to listen again. So when you are dissecting your fetal pig, they give you like a bucket and a bag that it's kept in.
Oh.
They are not refrigerated.
Oh.
They just sit there juicing every week. It gets worse. And it's like a month-long thing.
Oh my God, no.
It is horrendous.
Like formaldehyde is insufficient.
Yeah. Well, by the time that I was going through that, they didn't use formaldehyde anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they don't use that anymore. Yeah, they don't use that anymore for anything that like students are dissecting.
On account of the cancer, potentially?
Probably on account of the cancer. But yeah, by the time I was in high school, formaldehyde wasn't in use anymore unless it was like a canned or jarred thing.
Well, I'm older than you. In my day.
Yeah, back in my day.
3 years earlier. Everything was in formaldehyde. The lunch was in formaldehyde.
Yeah.
The lunch ladies were in formaldehyde.
Oh, poor lunch ladies. Okay, we're gonna move on. Okay. It's safe.
Safety.
Well, I guess it's not really safe because we talked earlier in our series about potentially like ranking episodes with Schitt's Creek quotes. And when I told you, like, I have an episode in mind that is my ew, David. This is my ew, David.
This one's pretty gnarly.
The shapeshifter that it ultimately turns out to be, the pile of gooey skin, horrendous.
Gross.
So gross. And part of me is just like, like it had been relatively tame up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But finding that pile of just like nasty, like, is it melted? Is it gelatinous? What are you?
Looks like a bloody jellyfish.
Yeah, just so gross. Is that a good enough premise wrap up?
Sure.
I mean, eventually Dean is taken by the shapeshifter.
Yeah.
And
the boys invest. Well, I guess we'll probably get into themes more a little bit later, but I think it's relevant to point out at the beginning, before, like, when Sam is checking his email from Little Becky, him and Dean have a very brief conversation, very brief, very like obviously capital T themes are happening, conversation about well, so you lie to your friends, huh? Like, well, I just don't tell them everything. Well, you can't get close to people because that way lies danger,
Yeah.
And that's going to be a recurrent theme throughout the episode.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, through the show
series, yeah.
I mean, yeah. Some of those like root things that I've pulled out here. Like, Dean has abandonment issues. He'll never call them that, but like, call it what it is. It's abandonment issues. And he doesn't want Sam leaving him again. I also had this very like sad, I was walking my dog this afternoon trying to like make sure that I didn't need to recap my notes or rewatch the episode before we did this, because it's been a while.
I did.
And it's one of those things where I know I read way too much into Dean because I am coming at this with, 14 additional years of episodes, like, as a lens to look through.
Right.
And I just sit here like, did Sam even ask Dean to go to Stanford with him? Or did he just like not like to the school, but like in general, like you, by this point you have the sense there was a pretty bad falling out, clearly, between Sam and at minimum John. I can't imagine that it was that with Dean, but I also feel like Sam probably did not tell Dean a whole lot or ask him to come. It's just like,
well, he wouldn't, even this far in, he wouldn't have been like, I'm sure there was a level of, I'm standing with Dad, what a betrayal, how dare you,
right?
Yeah, because then I get to be the good son.
Yeah,
please, Daddy, hug me once.
No. Okay, so just a couple of things. I think it's really funny how they keep kind of playing with Dean's character. It feels like they haven't set on a specific, like, is he actually comedic relief? Is he just kind of really flat-toned? I have on here that it's bold of them to like formally introduce Dean as this kind of womanizer with one of Sam's friends, because you get that feeling like there's some uncomfortable comments about waitresses. There's, a lot of flirting for like phone numbers and info. But this just felt very like different and more forward than any of that, because a lot of previous episodes, it seemed to be about getting Sam to move on from Jess.
Yeah, or at the very least, just he puts on this sort of hyper masculine front,
right?
And being and objectifying women very openly and blatantly is part of that front.
Yeah. Yep. So I thought it was kind of interesting where it was. It felt like it was a more like settled aspect of character in this episode.
They certainly allude to that, and this is a thing with the shapeshifter. I have one of the many problems I have with the shapeshifter, but as we find out, the shapeshifter not only takes on the appearance of the person in question, but they also sort of develop a psychic connection with them and begin to kind of understand aspects of their past, their personality, what have you. And, so we could take that as, Sam or Dean really does have some level of decency in that if the shapeshifter is trying to sleep with Becky because Sam, I keep saying Sam, because Dean wants to, like, Dean obviously didn't try because that would be gross. Her brother's in jail. It's a bad time for everybody.
Yeah.
Not your moment. And he'll flirt and he'll like allude to it, and do nudge, nudge, wink, wink when she leaves the room. But the shapeshifter Dean will actually shoot his shot.
Yeah, that's so funny because I always interpreted that as like cleaning up a loose end, basically.
I mean, I'm sure there's an element of that too. Also we don't get I feel like we don't get a great sense of why the shapeshifter does what he does.
Yeah, no.
But there's an element of just
100%
love killing.
Yeah, that's one of the that's kind of the thing I was gonna get at, that this episode really it doesn't go the whole way. It falls flat a little bit, probably because time issue. I can only make that excuse so often. They should have found better ways to do it.
Well,
But
I mean, I feel, I think they could employ a little bit more, because there's a lot, like I'm finding when I'm writing these my plot synopses down. Granted, I need a lot of detail because mama's forgetful, but you know, at the same time, I'm spending a good 3/4 of a page just on plot synopsis. Like, they throw a lot in there.
Yeah.
You know, they could maybe either streamline it a bit or just be a little bit more efficient.
Right.
With it, you know, again, less exposition, you know.
Right.
A lot less.
Right. Like, no.
Like, one thing they sort of imply, I think, is that they play fast and loose with evolution, for one thing. But, like, you know, they sort of imply that the shapeshifter does what he does because, well, became a shapeshifter, developed these magical powers, and also kills, tortures and kills. Actually, binds, tortures, and kills, now that I think about it.
Yes.
But because,
which is interesting because this was around the time of BTK.
Right. But, like, that part of the reason that maybe his main motivation for that is that he grew up, he was born hideous, and he was treated so badly that, you know, he developed this ability to shapeshift and essentially not only look like but become other people, and B, that he now kills as a manifestation of that rage, or as a way of getting out the rage he has for how people treated him growing up.
Yeah, they're
one specifically hideous.
It's so shapeshifters are by no means like the most common thing that they go against, but there are several throughout the years, and it's season 6, I think. They settle on a more, like, I'll say, practical mythology of the origin of monsters in the world, and that particular shapeshifter does not have the full understanding of the evolution of monsters.
Well, they do name check, like, skinwalkers and something else.
Yeah.
I kind of liked that because they didn't go, oh yes, skinwalkers, you mean blah 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 blah, like they do about a lot of things. They name check this shit that alludes to a bigger world out there. Yeah. Don't tell you what that is. And that's the kind of fucking storytelling I'm looking for. Like, give me tidbits and tantalizing moments and let me fill the blanks in. I love that shit.
Yeah. I know, not to bring up Cabin in the Woods again, but
you know, I did rewatch it this weekend. I liked it a hell of a lot better on the second watch. I don't know what my problem is the first time.
Like, asterisk, Joss Whedon is apparently trash.
Yeah, he's a fucking asshole. Anyhow.
But I still really enjoy Cabin in the Woods. If you remove it, kind of like, I still really enjoy Firefly, unfortunately. Like,
I mean, Rosemary's Baby is one of my favorite movies, and it was made by a literal monster, so you won't get any fucking judgment.
Well, right. Just, like, acknowledge, unfortunately, sometimes creators are monsters. And you can separate their, like, gifs. The creator says GIF, and I refuse.
I love how we're talking rapist,
very, very serious things, and then GIF and GIF. I know.
Harasser, guy who dares to call it a GIF.
They're not all equal, but you know what?
Yes.
These are the hills we die on, right?
You're no argument from me.
Right. So, but the concept there where it's like, it's what nightmares are from, it's this kind of like less solidified origin point.
Right.
And this particular shapeshifter doesn't get it. Doesn't do that well. Because it only knows, I'm saying it because I don't know, they will say they because I don't actually know
what its original gender may or may not have been.
So they only know their experience. And while you were describing it, I was like, oh, it's like Phantom of the Opera. Like, this shapeshifter is like Phantom of the Opera. And I guess Becky is
Sarah Brightman.
Yeah. Fuck Sarah Brightman. Honestly, I hate her. Was it you who sent me the trash can?
Yes.
So Sarah Brightman is a singer who was on Broadway for many years and was married to Andrew Lloyd Webber. And Christine from Phantom of the Opera was like written specifically for her vocal range, but her vocal range is trash. She is not good. And someone found this great video of a like trash can blowing in the back of a truck doing this in the wind and overlaid her singing the like see, I'm terrible. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. And let me tell you that that made it better for me.
We can't get rid of Sarah Brightman, but we can make her a little easier to deal with.
One of the like most upsetting things about them getting divorced is that she actually like took and owns half of his portfolio.
Hell yeah, get it, girl.
And I'm like, Cats is not good, but she is still making bank on that.
You know what? This is another fucking sidebar, but who knows how much unpaid emotional labor that woman did towards the output of Andrew Lloyd Webber as the wife of Andrew Lloyd Webber. It might have been absolutely nothing. It might have been a fuckload. We don't know. Anyhow, like the myth of the muse is toxic. Get your paycheck, mama.
Yeah. I would like conversely though, like he had to listen to her.
I mean, he clearly loved it. He wrote her
clearly he was drunk on love, I guess. I don't know. I can't stand it. It's so bad.
Music. See?
Okay, so the shapeshifter is the Phantom, which, I mean, again, circling back to what I have been trying to say, like, this episode does what almost no other episode in the early seasons does best, and that is create an alternative, like, viewing for the audience of monsters. Because they're very, like, hardline black and white in these early seasons. Like, no, monsters are bad, monsters are evil. And this gives us this opportunity to see how monsters like view themselves. And at that same time, like I would extend it because I'm pretty sure that the shapeshifter is not only talking about themselves, they're talking about Dean. They're interpreting and, you know, emoting the way they're reading Dean's memories. And
in the like monologue
in the monologue, like the shapeshifter certainly talks about themselves, but they do talk about Dean. And you can take like two things away from that. Like Dean has had a very tragic life. Sam and Dean have both had very tragic lives, but you can also take away from it that like Dean is the actual monster, and by extension like all hunters. It doesn't work very well for this particular shapeshifter because they have decided to like kill people who have done nothing to them.
Cut and dry with this one, yeah.
But it's one of those like if you're willing to sit there and listen to it in a couple ways, I think that it's actually a very like poignant message that it's getting across, even if they could have done it better. And again, that's with a lot of additional context over this season and the next season, because like clearly Sam has always questioned like what they do, because Dean makes a comment. I hope it was an earlier episode, but maybe it's in an episode after this. I don't know.
Find out.
But he makes a comment about Sam being very like shoot first, ask questions later. Like, but Dean is never once really presented as not being that way. prior to that comment. Like through these episodes, it's him who's like, whoa, take a step back, Sammy. And so it was really strange when he actually made that comment, because I'm like, but you're the one who does this. Like, Sam makes a comment about this later, like, you've always been shoot first, ask questions later, which I mean, that matches, you know.
Well, it feels like it is when Sam is kind of getting ambitious. Says, no, I think this is our thing. That's when Dean is telling him to, whoa, back off. You don't know that. But when either Dean's got a hunch or he's certain that this is something we need to investigate, he is very gung-ho about it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that he definitely is shoot first, ask questions later, where his own, like, intuition, for lack of a better word, is concerned.
Yeah.
But where Sam is concerned, he definitely tries to put the reins on him, and whether part of that is because he wants to be the guy who saves the day, and part of it might be protective. Yeah. Little column A, little column B, probably.
I wonder, I would add a column C of, like, Sam has been out of this for 4 years.
Sure.
I mean, I can't say that I would.
Reasonable caution.
Right. Yep.
May play a role.
Yep. So let's see. Oh, so a couple of, like, just kind of sticky points for me in this. None of them are, well, most of them are not very, but, like, nitpicky points. I'm like, Sam is just straight up a bad pre-law student. No lawyer, nothing is ever going to say prove. They're not going to say, I'm going to prove. Like, they're just not going to do that, because the whole point is to disprove the opposite.
Also, like, his friend stole evidence, and his response isn't, my God, put that back and hope to Christ nobody knows you did that, because you just got your brother, like.
Right. Yeah.
Let alone they're like, yeah, we'll just go to the fight. And granted, the going to the crime scene thing is just sort of what they do.
Well, yeah.
But where his friend's actual case is concerned, he's like, it helps us, we'll take it.
Yeah, whatever. We're going to kill a monster. It's not going to get your brother out of jail.
No, exactly.
Like, what kind of defense is that? Oh, it's a shapeshifter. Let's see, another thing. So this is December in Missouri, and they get there at 5:30 a.m. and it is like full on sunny.
Full light. I know. I want that too.
I was staring at that and I'm like, you didn't even try.
I think, granted, we are significantly further north than that, but in December it is straight up almost full darkness.
At 5:30, no. It is not. That's just, it's not how it works here.
No. I know it's a stupid piddly thing to notice, but yes, that struck me as well.
No, I 100%. And let's see, the other, like, this has two parts where I'm like, I was watching it and I'm like, oh, a man wrote this, 100%. And I looked it up. It is true, a man wrote this. But
John Scheiben, right? Or no, he directed it. Or was it John? Did he write it?
I think he wrote it.
Yeah. Because he did X-Files shit too, so I saw his name and went, ooh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was the writer for this episode.
I think so.
And, like, literally no woman is going to, like, answer the door without looking who it is first. Would definitely have called the cops at that point. She knows Dean has lied. She's kicked Sam out. There's a photo of Sam on their fridge. She opts to, like, kick him out in a rage, but then allows Dean back into the house alone.
Because he says, I know what you're going to say. And she's, well, I guess he did know what I was going to say. I guess I'll get him a beer and a fireplace. Like, no.
Absolutely not. Like, that's not how it works. You throw a vase at him.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't answer that door. You call the police.
Yeah, call the police. No. I was watching that and I'm like, this is absurd. This is so absurd. And it's not even like a level of absurdity that I'm willing to like suspend disbelief for, because let me tell you, if
also like, this is, I don't know why this made me think of that, but if we kind of maybe said this, but essentially the shapeshifter is posing or becoming these men who he sees out in the wild with their female partners. Turns into, finds that, kind of stalks them, finds out when they're going to be gone, turns into the man and ties up and tortures and then potentially kills, depending on the female partner.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, granted, we don't see the majority of the violence, which A, I would prefer not to, and B, we never would, because this is the CW we're talking about. But it's still like isn't abundantly clear to me all of what he's doing to them.
Yeah.
Like there's not I don't think there's an implication of sexual violence, which I do appreciate. I know it's a low bar to clear, but I think they do clear it.
Yeah.
But like, in the cold open, when the SWAT team comes in, there's blood fucking everywhere. Like blood on the walls, blood on the chair, blood on the floor. Like it's all the fuck over the place. And like Becky's got like a cut on her eye.
Yeah.
Like it's not, and it's not like suggestive as in, oh, there's cuts you can't see, and that's terrifying. It's just, what exactly is he doing to them?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't have good answers for that one, but yeah.
I mean, maybe it's not crucial that I know. It's more of a like just sort of a disconnect between the like set choices, like the sort of atmospheric choices they made, and what actually makes it into the text. It's just kind of like, I'm missing something, or they didn't think that through.
Right. Lacey.
Like, he's a bad guy, more blood. Oh my God, Lacey. I'm
Lacey.
a jerk. Pay attention to me.
Why are you like this?
You picked the dog with the sassiest butt. You told me that.
I know. She has such a sassy little butt. I'm not allowed to pick dogs anymore. Let's see. Then one of the other like so the shapeshifter is killed, and so Dean is like legally dead. For now.
Yeah.
For now.
As I wrote down, the shapeshifter, Dean kills the shapeshifter and he turns into bad CGI.
Yep. And
he's just a slightly fuzzy, like he looks like he's like it's a TV on a channel that you don't quite get version of Dean.
Yes, exactly.
He's the scrambled porn version of Dean.
Yes. And Dean makes some comment about like how many times does one get to go to their own funeral, and I'm just like, how many funerals do you need, Dean? Like, this is the first one. Spoilers, if you didn't know, Sam and Dean die a lot.
Yes. Love it.
They die a lot.
Yeah.
Everyone on the show dies a lot. Yeah. Or just once, and then everyone's mad about it. Which is fair. Just lay down. Just lay down. Lacey.
So let's see, where are we at?
And then the Samulet makes its first appearance.
The what? I'm sorry?
The Samulet. It's a little amulet that Dean wears.
Yeah. How did the guy get that? I guess he tied him up and took it.
Yeah.
Presumably. Okay. Yeah. That's right. I forgot. He had him tied up in the sewer. Yeah, that's the other thing. The shapeshifter doesn't kill the people he shapeshifts into because of that whole psychic connection thing. He needs them to maintain that connection so that it's he's a reasonable facsimile of that person. And it's totally not as a convenient plot device for why neither of those dudes are dead right now. Yeah, the shapeshifter doesn't. Okay, they're actually. We'll get there when we have my obligatory X-Files moment. But there is actually a very, very good episode of the X-Files involving a shapeshifter that, like, well, it takes on, there is that ambiguity of, oh shit, I'm not, I just look like this person, I'm not actually this person, how do I act that way? And it's played for a little bit of suspense and humor, and like they could do that and maybe should do more of that instead of just, I feel like that's a more satisfying part of the narrative than is creating a reason why, I don't know. It just, it feels a little more convenient.
Yeah, I mean, I will say clearly the convenience comes from, if the shapeshifter was going to become one of Sam or Dean, they needed a reason to keep them alive.
Sure.
There needs to be no more convenience than that.
Yeah. Lacey? Well, because I mean, they definitely could have. There are good reasons with, like, for example, keeping the male partners of the women that he kills alive. Well, then right. They stop looking for, the police stop looking for the perpetrator because they have the partner.
They can just change shape.
Yeah.
Like.
It's then at least he's never under suspicion.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, I assume that
something that doesn't sort of imply something that just seems really convenient about just the basic being of the shapeshifter. I don't know. Maybe I'm being picky.
And I mean, I will say this particular shapeshifter clearly has no desire to be themselves.
No.
Like, it seems pretty clear.
I mean, we don't even get a good sense of who themselves is.
Right. And that's kind of what I was saying, like, when the shapeshifter is giving their little monologue, like, clearly talking about themselves, but talking about Dean like they're the same.
Yeah.
And I think that went beyond just, oh, I'm, basically absorbing all of these thoughts, memories, emotions, etc.
Sure. They were kind of making connections.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's so interesting to me to get that kind of first real perspective from the monster, even if it's kind of like serving 3 or 4 different purposes. And it's like, well, if it's going to serve 3 or 4 different purposes, maybe give it more time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would maybe agree with that a little more if we really got a sense of who the monster was. We got reasons and we got some sort of vague illusions.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from, I was, hideous. Like, okay, like in what way? Like, let's be more specific, or, imply something a little bit bigger than that. Because people are born hideous every fucking day. And they don't turn into shapeshifters.
And like, I mean, people are awful.
People are the fucking worst.
People are terrible.
But also, like, I wrote this down, but like, if the shapeshifter's logic, right, of, all evolution takes is a mutation, and all it took was apparently the most hideous baby ever born, and being
and again
for that, and then they developed this ability to shapeshift. Like, if that held, there would be no tiny dicks left in the wild, ever.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I'm talking about. The shapeshifter clearly does not have the whole story. That's not what the show settles on as the lore of monsters.
Sure. No, we're talking about this very specific.
Yeah, this specific instance, like, this I'm trying to, it's like you can't see the trees in the woods kind of thing, where the shapeshifter is very clearly focused. They don't have it, which is so interesting because they clearly don't have the ability to empathize with anyone else, because they've never had the reason to.
Right.
And so being like shocked by absorbing those feelings and thoughts of other people is what is so jarring for them. Because it's clear they're only focused on their pain and
right.
they're not
and inflicting that.
Right, and inflicting that on other people. They either don't know that there are other shapeshifters, or yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell because, like you said, it's left pretty like it's not a good background that is given to this character for all that they should have done if they were going to make these kind of like bigger statements and moves through them. But yeah, I just think it's very interesting.
Like, so this is kind of dovetailing into it, so we'll just go quickly, as briefly as I can, to Aaron's obligatory X-Files moment. So there is the character of the alien bounty hunter who shows up throughout season 3-ish. I really should look up what seasons I'm talking about. But there's an alien bounty hunter who can shapeshift. And that sort of carries throughout the series. So that's one thing. But the main episode that this brought up for me was Small Potatoes. It's low-key one of the best episodes of the X-Files. It's not showy. It's not one of the, the real big ones, but it's a really, really good episode. It's another Darren Morgan episode, who wrote all the best episodes of the X-Files. And Darren Morgan actually plays the lead monster. So it's Monster of the Week. And it's this guy named Eddie Van Blunt, who
sure,
the H is silent. No one ever spells it right. Like, he's this guy who basically, he's this kind of Rodney Dangerfield character who never gets any respect. He's he's this just average schlubby, just absolutely unextraordinary in every way, except he has a tail. And they explain that as being, it's a family, like, it's a family sort of like a mutation. Like, they have the vestigial tail. Like, his dad was a circus freak because he had this tail, and that was how he made his living. And it turns out, aside from the tail, the only and Van Blunt had his, and Eddie had his removed. I'm
surprised they're allowed to do that. I would have thought it would be an extremely dangerous extraction.
Yeah, apparently not. But the other extraordinary thing about him is he can shapeshift. And so Mulder and Scully only come across this because they come across this town where all these babies are being born with tails, and no one can figure out why. And they assume it's the doctor is doing like a gross, like, I'm Dr. Mengele, like, doing my own baby experiments kind of situation. And instead, it's just Eddie is shapeshifting into, he's a maintenance worker at a hospital. And it's like a fertility clinic. And he's shapeshifting into the forms of these men who come into the fertility clinic and impregnating these women. And he's raping these women. There's no bones about that.
Yeah.
It's sexual assault. He's raping these women. But what I love about this episode is I love how completely ordinary he is. Like, in comparison to Skin, where the shapeshifter is this one of a kind sort of this remarkable thing.
As far as he knows.
Remarkable ability, but he's so fucking nothing. And instead of, he doesn't hurt people because he wants to inflict pain. He doesn't even think he's hurting anybody. He just wants what these men have. Like, he wants love. He apparently does this to his high school girlfriend in the form of Luke Skywalker, because Star Wars is her favorite movie. And so she thinks and this woman is a little unhinged, but she thinks she's been impregnated by Luke Skywalker. Like, he's, and at one point, fun spoilers, he then takes over Mulder's life, which is kind of a fun moment.
Yeah.
But, that's one of the fun kind of things that goes throughout the Darren Morgan episodes, is he really takes the piss out of Mulder. He does not like Mulder. And, he says something to the effect of, you're a good looking man. You've got this wonderful job. You've got everything in the world. Why do you live like me? Just a gross, schlubby guy jerking off by himself in a porn theater, essentially. Like, living in the shadows and, not really enjoying your life.
Yeah.
What is it? It says something like, I do it by necessity, you do it by choice. And I really liked how, anyway, the complete opposite, it seemed to me, about how the shapeshifter worked in Small Potatoes versus in Skin. I like how they took something that's so boring and so normal and made it compelling by virtue of it just being so quotidian.
Yeah. And I mean, this shapeshifter is not unique. No. Just clearly doesn't
realize it. Yeah, and it's a lot of similar, I think, themes of identity and connection and what happens to somebody who doesn't have that. Someone who rejects that. But it's a bit of a lighter touch considering the subject matter.
Yeah, and like very different approaches to how they kind of adapt to like what the hand that life has dealt them kind of thing. Yeah.
And there is sort of the Scully like kind of we'll make overtures towards explaining this with, oh, he's got the skin on, his skin is different. Basically is what it boils down. No, he has an extra layer of subdermal muscle that he's learned to control, basically, which is bullshit, obviously. It's
right.
As mutation.
Right. Yeah. And again, this shapeshifter doesn't have the whole story, is clearly too set on their own pain to give us more of that. And yeah, it's what was I gonna say? I think we talk about this a few times when we talk about X-Files versus Supernet, but like the resources available to Mulder and Scully are very different. Going to investigate a town where a bunch of babies are born with tails, that's something they do. Sam and Dean end up focusing on like what are murder patterns we can track and via public information.
It's another way in which the framing device of them being FBI agents really works to the benefit of the story. Right. You don't need to cover as much ground establishing why they can be there.
Right. And so like here they eliminated some of it, like, oh,
she's a friend.
Sam's college friend was arrested for murder, and it's weird.
And ultimately that does kind of work in service of the overall themes of like human connection and the need for it. That does all work together in a way that I think is reasonably coherent.
It's just one of those things where like it's probably easier if you don't have to make that
100% is
initial leap.
You get a couple minutes of them in the car, Scully going, Mulder,
here's our case file.
Read the file, Scully. He throws it at her. She's like, Mulder, this is stupid. And then and they're there, and that's really all they have to do. Like the framing device is always going to work out a little easier on their end. There's just a lot less tap to establish.
Sorry, I have a couple more notes to read, and then are you pretty wrapped up with this episode?
I think so. I'll take a peek again, but I think that's about all I had. We talked about themes. Most of what else I wrote were plot things in case I had to do a synopsis.
Okay.
I did my X-Files spiel.
X-Files, yeah. My only like missed opportunity, I think it would have been more interesting to look at more of Sam's friends. Spoiler, they don't.
Ever?
Yeah, we get a kind of in season 5. We have to wait for season 5 for this. In season 5, there is something that could more or less explain why we never hear from any of Sam's friends ever again. Because I don't like, what is he gonna do? Is Becky emailing all of their mutual friends like Sam's a fucking freak? Don't. Like, what's to stop him from keeping those connections with other people? Or is it just like you know, oh, Dean says I can't keep lying to my friends and I can't be friends with them if I'm lying, which, like, to be fair, every fucking adult lies to each other or doesn't tell them everything.
Right.
Like, that's a natural part of being in an adult friendship, relationship, whatever.
It's called the goddamn social contract. We don't want truth all the time.
And to that, like, same effect, what fucking friends does Dean have?
Yeah, exactly. How does he know? Well, we do meet in a few episodes. We do meet the one friend apparently that Dean did have one time.
Yeah, friends. Yeah, and I find that I mean I have notes about that because I think that once you reach Route 666, the first episodes make even more sense because Dean is really fucking hard on Sam for not telling Jess.
Yeah.
Like, he is really like, hey. And I mean, considering the fact, I don't know. It's one of those things where if you're seriously considering like spending your life with someone and you know that this is real, you should maybe divulge that information.
Right. Once you're at a point where they trust that you're not a complete and utter nut job.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, either if he had told her, either she could have made an informed decision about whether she wanted that in her life, or she could have said, this guy's insane, I'm out.
Yeah.
And she would also still be alive.
All right. Yeah.
But then there would be no plot of the show, which is the only reason that she was introduced. Die.
Well, right. I mean, maybe he drops out of school because she broke up with him and he's heartbroken. I don't know.
Yeah.
We weren't given that. Instead, they just killed a like generic blonde woman on a ceiling with fire.
Yep. Again.
Same
episode.
Fun fact, May 2nd is Sam's birthday, and that was this weekend.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy belated birthday, Sam. All right. I need to go take care of Lacey.
I can hear her scratching. Yeah, that's all I got too. Are we done? Is that skin?
That's skin.
All right. See all you non-existent viewers next time for Hookman.
Hookman.